from having to do that. And also welcome to Dr. Medina. He's the newest member of the Board of Health. We're very excited to have you here this morning. If you just want to say a few words, feel free.
Sure. I thank you all for, considering me for this position. I'm really honored to be serving the town with all of you. I look forward to collaborating for our community.
Excellent. Thank you. And Nancy, I know you weren't able to attend Dr. Medina's appointment, but there was a very positive support for Dr. Medina's appointment on both Selectmen and Board of Health. So,
oh, that's wonderful, and welcome aboard.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, so I'll go to public comment. We do have a few attendees, so if you have something that you would like to bring up, feel free to raise your hand. Okay, I don't see, oh, Mr. Litt. So Barbara, would you mind bringing Mr. Litt over, please? And Mr. Litt, looks like we just brought you over. If you just want to unmute when you're ready.
Sorry, I thought I did that.
Okay, welcome.
Welcome, and welcome to Dr. Medina. Glad to have a full board again. I just wanted to remind you that as you're reorganizing, you probably need to vote to update your signature authorizations for things like purchasing and payroll warrants and that kind of stuff. It's the kind of thing it's easy to forget. That's it.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Tim.
Okay. Anybody else for public comment before we move on? Okay. And next on our agenda is the approval of the August 11th and August 25th meeting minutes. Did everyone have a chance to review those?
I did. I wasn't at the 25th, so I can only weigh in on the 11th.
Okay. And Dr. Medina, I know you weren't a member of the board as of yet, but you can still vote on them if you choose to. Okay. So we'll break them up into the motion then, Nancy, so that if
Okay.
you can abstain from the 25th and vice versa for Dr.
Okay.
Medina. Okay. So I move to approve the August 11th minutes.
I second the motion and vote yes or aye.
Okay.
And I
Dr.
vote-
Medina.
I vote yes as well.
Okay. And Chelsea is aye. So, and then I move to approve the August 25th minutes, which was the joint meeting for the Board of Selectmen. Is there a second?
Yep, I second and approve. Aye.
Okay. Okay. Nancy,
I don't think I can vote on that, right?
you can choose to abstain. That's fine.
That yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So Nancy abstains
Mhm.
and Chelsea, aye. Okay. So that's a 2-1. 2-1-0. So sorry, 2-0-1. Okay. Okay. Next is Board of Health reorganization. So at the beginning of this fiscal year, Mary Lou was the chair, I was the vice chair, and Nancy was the clerk. So obviously, given that Mary Lou's no longer here, we need to make sure that we have a chair. So is anybody interested in being the chair?
I am not. I've done it in the past, and I'm probably going to be not running the next time. So I figure I might just stay as clerk if that's okay.
Okay. Dr. Medina, do you have a strong feeling either way on this?
So I would, at this point, would to prefer not to be chair, as it is my first year on the Board of Health and my first, introduction to the Board of Health. But I'm happy to vice chair or, even co-chair.
Okay.
So.
Okay. So that's fine. I'm happy to chair this, given kind of what we have in front of us. And Dr. Medina, I definitely appreciate this being your first board, there's a lot of open meeting law things that we need to make sure we fall in line with. So I'm happy to, explain as we go along how this kind of works in the process perspective. So I'm happy to do that. I mean, it won't be for the full year. We'll reorganize again in July. And, if something changes, we can always reorganize mid-year as well. So I'm happy to do that. So do we, does somebody want to make a motion for chair?
I make a motion to have Chelsea as the chair, Dr. Medina as the vice chair, and myself as clerk. Can you do that all in one fell swoop?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
And I second.
Okay.
and I
Okay.
second that.
Okay, great. Okay, so Nancy,
I vote aye.
Dr. Medina,
I vote aye.
and Chelsea, aye. Okay, so that passes unanimously 3-0. Okay, perfect. Next on the agenda is Fall Town Meeting, and I'm going to take a little bit out of order because I see Mr. Hegarty is in the audience this morning. And he and I had a conversation earlier this week in anticipation for the November 1st Fall Town Meeting. And he was looking for any recommendation, direction that the Board of Health wanted to give at this point, given that it's September 9th, school's back in session. How restrictive or unrestrictive are we thinking as of right now, assuming not much changes? And then if something were to change, then how would we handle that going forward? So just to kind of, from a planning perspective, to help him kind of know where the Board of Health is at. So Barbara, would you mind bringing over Mr. Hegarty, and I'll
No problem.
let him.
There we go.
Good morning, Mr. Hegarty. I just gave you a brief intro, but feel free to update us on what you're looking for.
Good morning. Well, thanks for letting me this meeting. The clerk is responsible for logistics of the town meeting. And usually that's a pretty simple task when we have an indoor town meeting, but in this COVID, I wanted to get the guidance from your board, and you were very helpful to me in drafting the two outdoor town meetings we had over the past 2 years to make them a success. So the tentative plan right now would be to hold it in the auditorium at the 20th school, as we did in pre-COVID days. But there are a couple issues at the front. One is the issue of masks. Should masks be encouraged? Can they be required? Or should they be required? That's number one. And the second issue involves spacing, whether that's a necessity or a good to have, or whether that's your directive. And I did a little bit of checking around to see what some other towns are doing, and Westwood is having an outdoor town meeting on October 1, and they have an even they have a minimum 2 foot separation. So looking for your guidance on those issues, and why that's significant to me is, well, the number one, safety. But number two is, if you were to come up with certain restrictions in terms of spacing, it has significant impacts upon the capacity of the hall. And I went through and measured it out yesterday, not just horizontal spacing, but vertical spacing as well. But something that's very important that we need to get a message out to the world on this is, I've had kind of an informal conversation with people. What do they feel about it? Are they comfortable coming to an indoor town meeting? And we need to make people feel comfortable and know what the rules are going to be. I'm 65 years old, and I'm pretty much right in the middle of the demographic that comes to a town meeting. So anyway, that's what I'm looking for. Nothing has to be written in stone here, but the more guides you get, the better. In terms of the final logistics, if we were to move it out of the auditorium, say into the gymnasium, I need to know by the early part of October, so I can have a vendor cable resistance for that. It's not complex, but to get on their schedule, I've already kind of remind them of. That's what I'm looking
Okay, great. Thank you. So I'll open it up to Nancy and Dr. Medina on what your thoughts are. Nancy, do you want to go first?
Sure. I actually, just seeing the way this is going where I work, we're a little surprised that we're seeing the breakthrough cases and cases in the summer, because we didn't see that last year. So I think looking into the gymnasium is not unreasonable at this point, quite honestly. I don't know what Dr. Medina feels, but I think spacing and masks are probably going to be necessary if this goes in the direction it's going.
I agree 100%. I think if we'd use the gymnasium, we will have to have spacing and masks. You know, the alternative would be an outdoor meeting if possible. Obviously, that I think would be the safest alternative.
Yeah,
to do
agreed.
an outdoor meeting. But if we do decide on an indoor meeting, spaced in the gymnasium with masks. I think given what we're seeing on the ground and, you know, given that, you know, we do have a high vaccination rate in our community, which is very helpful, and I think makes us all feel, you know, that we can definitely feel confident, more confident with that, but there's still a significant amount of spread in cases that are occurring. So Taylor or Dr. Ackler, I don't know if you had any other comments on that, on either one of those scenarios.
No, agree with what you both think in terms of the gymnasium and the 6-foot spacing and the masking. As you said, we are seeing higher rates this summer and fall than we did last summer and fall. And I imagine there's not like a hybrid option. There's not like an option for in-person, but then residents to join electronically Zoom. So the gymnasium sounds like we should definitely look into that.
I agree.
So are you thinking that we would require 6 feet between every seat? Or,
People come together, I mean,
Yeah,
household.
people who come
Well,
from the
right.
same household.
but
No.
I think the way the clerk's office has to set it up, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but you have to set it up assuming nobody's coming from the same household, and then they could move their seats closer together. Is that,
Yes.
so we would have,
Same to the outdoors. You know, with set the chairs, if you suggested a 6-foot separation, if the moderator decided to move this into the auditorium, and that's his call, I would set it up the same way you do outdoors, 6 and 6, and if people want to pull the chair together, that's the business. But let me back up a step. First of all, would it be your suggestion or your direction that we have a 6-foot separation versus the 3? Or I don't know the one's better than the other. I just want to make sure that I have the right number to start playing with.
yeah, that's why I asked the question, because I think I'm just going based off what the schools have gone with right now, which is masking and not necessarily the 6 feet, but I don't, Dr. Medina can probably, or Heather and Taylor can probably answer that better than I can.
So the 3 feet guideline is to promote children staying in school. It's not to say that contacts within the 3 to 6 feet are not contacts. So if possible, the 6 feet would be the preferred option.
I'm just looking at the map and look at the roads in the auditorium. If we would have had a 3-foot separation, if it was an 18 or 20 inch space in the seats, effectively you're doing every 3rd seat coming across. In order to have that vertical separation, you have 2 options. You can just eliminate every other row, or you can kind of cheat by not skipping the rows, but having like a herringbone having a seating. Like in row 1, somebody can seat 1, in row 2, somebody can seat 4, and so forth. That would potentially allow you to have a reduced capacity in the gym. But I need to know from you whether your 6 feet is a hard rule or not.
Okay, so are you planning on kind of looking at the space and then figuring out how many people that could accommodate?
Yeah, I've already done that. The nominal capacity of the site capacity of the seat capacity actually is 505. The skip, every other seat horizontally, and you complete, drops it down to 128. Our quorum is 100. So that really doesn't make that effective to be able to do that by itself. And then we get into having overflows in the other rooms and such like that. So that's something I'd have to talk to the moderator about. So if you get the situation where you can only have 128 in that room and you have to do another room anyway, it'd be better off just going to the gym and space everybody out. Plus we have substantially better ventilation in the gym. I don't know how many of those of you voted in person at our elections, but what we did is we actually opened up 2 doors at the back of the gym and inserted a piece of thin plywood there, 4x8 foot piece of plywood, and cut a round hole in it and placed an air mover in each one of those to increase the airflow out of the room. So you have the input high in the ceiling at the entrance, and you have 2 additional egress points at the back, which substantially increase the flow out of the building rather than pushing air across one another. And we wouldn't have that capability in the auditorium. So, yeah, if you tell us we have to have 6 feet separation, yeah, it would make sense. I mean, we'd be taking a heck of a risk to down on that minimum 100, max 128. I mean, at that point, the cancer in the head will need a pin or something. Again, to confirm your recommendation, so it'll be 6 feet and mandatory masks.
I think at this point, we should set up the safest scenario. And then if, it's always easier to switch to 3 feet than it is to go from 3 to 6.
Yeah, I
So-
agree.
Okay,
Okay, no, that's very helpful. And I'll, how about, okay, there's some logistical differences and stuff like that. So I'll circle back with the moderator and, like I say, we went for the meeting, I just did a just settlement and give them the plans and see where we want to go from there. I did talk to the school administration yesterday, and to go to forth, there are not many the schools other on-site groups, so we're working on it. And again, this is an evening event, we would interact with the kids. So regardless of whether we do the front door of the auditorium, the side door of the gym, we can do it in a safe fashion. It's very helpful. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank
so
you.
we'll probably add this to a beginning of October meeting, just to touch base. So I'll make sure that you are aware of that meeting.
Yeah, and it's something that we, the moderator makes decisions. So I think we want to get ahead of it because sometimes things are posted on the blog, the people in our meeting put something out there that is incomplete, and we'll have no definitive. We go through people confidence and say this is what we do to people saying things. I won't make that work. So that'd be very helpful. So, all right, that's all I have. Thank you very much for your time here. Hey, just an aside, I noticed you have further on the agenda the mask requirement in town buildings. I was a big proponent of that, and in the clerk's office, we started running them ahead of time anyway. Just I think that's a good idea. As I told somebody yesterday, I've been blown away at how the public has embraced that. Today was the first day I saw anybody come in the building without a mask. It was actually a town employee, but I haven't seen any pushback whatsoever from anybody about the mask policy. And I've been frankly very surprised at that. And it's not like people are stalking going back to the car. They approach the building with a mask on and ready to go. So it's a very, very positive sign. And it says something about the Southborough writ large, their feelings on this topic.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.
You
Bye.
too.
Okay. Next on the agenda is potential warrant article. And I'm going to give a brief background of that for Dr. Medina and anybody else is listening. I know Nancy, Barbara, Taylor and Dr. Alker are very familiar with this conversation. But right now, Dr. Alker and Taylor are not funded at their full-time hours. So Dr. Alker is 17 and a half, I believe. And Taylor is 15 hours a week. And Taylor is a 40-hour employee a week, and Dr. Alker is 30 hours. So the reason for that is CARES funding, and sometimes FEMA, they kind of bounce back and forth. So I'm just going to refer to it as CARES for this discussion. Will reimburse towns for unbudgeted public health payroll and benefits. So July through current, Taylor and Dr. Alker have been tracking their time for COVID time versus non-COVID time and submitting that to the town accountant, who's then tracking it outside of Vadar, which is the system that she uses to track expenses, so that when it comes time to submit for reimbursement, she has it on a sheet. And then when we get reimbursement, she'll move it out of that actual expense line. So if you look at current Board of Health year-to-date budget to actual, it's going to look skewed because there's COVID time in there that's reimbursable that the town accountant has not moved out of those line items. Does that make sense so far?
Yes.
Okay. So CARES funding runs out as of right now, 12/31. So anything that is unbudgeted will then be required to come out of the town payment, right? We're not going to get reimbursed for it. So we've discussed in the past going to fall town meeting to increase some or all of the hours that are current and benefits that are not going to be reimbursable after 12/31. And I think between Board of Health, Advisory, Board of Selectmen last year, we were trying to work on getting the most benefit from the funding that was available, knowing that this was going to come up at some point. So I had the town accountant put together a spreadsheet that would say, so, and the other thing is, even though CARES runs out on 12/31, November 1st, if town meeting approves a budget to increase Board of Health's budget, then CARES wouldn't cover it because as of 11/1, it's budgeted. So what I had the town accountant do was say from 11/1 to 6/30, what would the incremental cost be to increase Taylor by 25 hours plus benefits and Dr. Alker increased by 12 and a half hours plus benefits. So I'm going to put that, Barbara, if you don't mind, if I can share my screen, or if you have the spreadsheet, if you want to pop it up. You're on mute.
I made you co-host.
Oh, you did? Oh,
Yep.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So this just kind of gives some assumptions. So public health director works 30 hours per week. The current budget, oh, sorry, it's 17.75, not 17 and a half. So we will be increasing by 12.25. So if you go down here, here's all the payroll periods. So the total payroll would be 31,000. And then the total benefits would be 14,000. So an increase for Dr. Alker would be $45,000 from 11/1 till 6/30. Then for the public health nurse, it would go from 15 to 40, and the payroll amount would be 38,000. Total benefits 16,000. So a total of 54,000.
Gotcha.
So I wanted to. And I know this is kind of probably more detailed than what we needed to look at, but I wanted you to have all the details so that we could think about it. And I don't think that we need to make a decision today on what exactly we want to recommend funding, but I do think we should make a decision today that we should fund something at fall town meeting.
Okay.
So I don't know if either one of you have any questions about anything that I said or any feedback on your thoughts.
No, I think this looks great. I don't think it's too detailed. I think it
Okay.
looks good. Looks great. Thank you for doing that.
Carla did most of it, so
Oh,
she
thank
helped
her.
me out. So I'll give her all the credit for this one.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think as what I want to make sure is if we agree to increase funding, which I think we all hopefully agree with, are we, when do we have to commit? Like if we commit to 40 hours and 30 hours, would we be ready to present that at town meeting in October?
So yes,
I just wanna make sure we can do that. Yeah.
yeah, so we would be responsible for presenting
Mhm.
the payroll piece. We don't own the benefits budget. So all town
Okay.
employees have, their benefits are in a benefit budget, which is managed by Brian Valentine in the finance team. So we would need to alert him that if we were to increase the payroll hours, we would also then need to increase the benefit amount. So that's a great question. And yes, we would have to present this to town meeting. And we do have contracts signed with both employees through 6/30 of 22. So, which is not normally, like normally you would have the funding before you sign the contract, but where we had funding available, you know, and we needed the employees, that's kind of how we did it. Now, you know, the alternative is that we go to town meeting in March and do it for FY23 and, you know, work with advisory on how to fill the gap. I just don't think that that's the best path. You know, I think town meeting should, you know, hear it. And when there was an amendment on the floor at this past town meeting in which I amended the Board of Health budget, and I did say that we were taking advantage of the funding that was available, but that we would be coming back for more funding for these positions. So it's definitely out there. But I do think we need to do our due diligence to educate the residents on, you know, what exactly does this mean for the town and what kind of services are we, you know, we've had these employees now, I think Dr. Alker, we've had since January and Taylor, April. And so I think, you know, we've seen an increase in the services available to residents. And, you know, we want to continue that obviously as hopefully COVID winds down and we can expand on what we're doing. So I think that we'll be pretty busy between now and town meeting on preparing how we want to present this. And I'm very open to your ideas on how to do that and how to, you know, convey succinctly what the employees are doing.
Be happy.
So-
I think that's something we can definitely work offline on and really, you know, maybe I'd be happy to get some kind of quick, you know, a very concise presentation ready for town meeting.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
So what I would suggest is that we take a position that we want to have an article at town meeting. And then as you kind of, I just want you to have some time to digest this slide and I can get it to you. And then take a final position on exactly what we want to be in that article at the next meeting, if that's.
That sounds great. Yep.
Yeah, I
So-
think that's great.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to make a motion that the Board of Health would like to have a placeholder in the warrant for a amendment to the Board of Health budget for FY '22.
I second the motion and vote aye.
I vote aye.
Okay, Chelsea, I. Okay, great, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. Okay, next on this is the year-to-date budget update. I kind of gave that already where I explained that if you look at the Vadar report, it's going to look skewed. But I will tell you that Carla is tracking hours that are not covered by COVID. And Dr. Alker and Taylor have done a fabulous job in tracking the hours, having them be covered by COVID, which is not a great thing, right? Because we don't want them to be spending a lot of time on COVID, but at least the funding is there for when they have to spend time on it. There are a few hours, minimal, that are not covered. And the reason for that is because vacation time is not covered by COVID. So if they take vacation, then if that week would not be covered. But I think in the opposite week, in that bi-weekly payroll period, there were more COVID hours. So it wasn't the full week that wasn't covered for the 12.5 or 12.25 and the 25, but there are some. So I just wanted to let this board know. And I think every month I'll give that update so that we kind of know where we're at in year-to-date budget to actual. Any questions on that?
No.
Okay. Okay, next is the shared service grant update. Dr. Alker, do you want to start with this one or do you want me to start and then you can fill in what I missed?
Sure, I can start and
Okay,
you
go
can
ahead.
let me know what I missed.
Okay.
So this was a public health excellent shared service grant that we received this spring for the 4 towns with Westboro, Southboro, Northboro as lead agent in Boylston. And so the 4 towns have done their IMA agreements and we have now kind of gotten up and running. We have an advisory committee where there's 1 vote from each town. So we had our first meeting yesterday. And we, the main shared services that we have covered in the grant are inspectional services for food and housing, inspectional software for food and housing, and nursing hours. So we are just getting the software up and running. We have admin and inspector software training this coming Monday and the following Monday. And we have Diane Legier, our food and housing inspector, is up and running. She has already done viewing of the schools, and she has already worked on a binder and presented that to food establishments with really positive feedback and has been doing our food inspections already. So she has hit the ground running. And in terms of the nursing services, the contract with Salmon VNA has now begun. We have Northborough has prior and other towns have prior experience with the Salmon VNA. We're basically getting 60 hours per week of nursing, and the nurse Celeste is going to cover Westboro, and the nurse Erin, I think it's Shanahan, new to public health, is going to cover the 3 towns, Boylston, Southboro, and Northborough. So she's getting up and running, and other things we discussed, there is potential as a town and then as a 4 towns as a region for a grant that's basically through the FDA on food safety. And this is a grant that's been done in the past, and this is the latest iteration, but there is money that would be available through the grant. Like I said, it can be done individually and as well done as a region. And this is really to bring the town and the region, you know, to kind of a sort of certified level for food safety, and also to bring money to really be able to train the employees at the food establishments in town. So that was kind of the highlights from yesterday, Chelsea.
Yeah, I think the only thing I was going to add is that Diane put together a
A binder.
safety manual for the food establishments. And I think they made like 200 copies or something. And I guess it's been really well received. And they've done some pre-inspections, walked through some highlights that they may want to improve on. Oh, there's the food safety manual. And then they'll go back through and do a full inspection once they kind of have time to remediate some of the concerns. So it sounded great. I think that, this is definitely a win for Southborough. So I've been pretty impressed with what she's been able to accomplish already. So I think we're definitely moving in the right direction. And it's 60 hours of nursing time for the 4 towns. So we're
For
getting
the 4 towns, yes,
50.
right. So it's 60 hours for 4 towns. So basically each town 15 hours, although there's going to be sort of collaborative projects. But yes, it's 15 hours per week per town.
Yes.
But it's 60 hours for the collaborative. And it's, it's certainly good to be working together. Yes. And in terms of the food inspections, here in the past couple of years, we've been really even higher than usual, way down with septic inspections. So, our inspectors are just the numbers are kind of a bit off the chart with that. So some of the food inspections have not been meeting. So it's good to have assist with, for sure.
Yes. So thank you to Diane and Kristen Black's been kind of spearheading the coordination of all of this. And there's, as Dr. Alka mentioned, there's 2 nurses. We'll have primary access to 1, but if we have a flu clinic or something like that,
Yes.
and we need some more nursing time, then we can use both.
I
So
think that's
I
very
definitely
helpful.
think there's a lot of flexibility. So
Yeah, that's
great.
very
Does anybody have any questions about that?
No, that's great.
Okay.
It's exciting, actually.
It
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Very,
It was a
very,
good meeting.
Very much so, very much.
And
so.
those are all online, it'll be a quarterly meeting. They're online, open to the public. So anybody that's interested can definitely join. Dr. Alker is the primary, I'm the alternate. So I don't vote when Dr. Alker is there, but I'm available if she can.
Right. We have December, March, and June meetings.
Yes. Okay. COVID cases and vaccine update. So I'll give this to Dr. Alker and Taylor.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think Taylor was going to start.
so, we still have COVID cases. They're definitely slowly increasing each week. So right now we have 9 active cases. I kind of broke down some data just so everyone knows what's going on. I know I update the website weekly, but so far since our first case, we've had 569 cases total. And then since August, we've had 42 cases, and 60% of them are breakthrough cases. And so of those 42 cases, just so everyone is aware, 9 of them were not eligible to be vaccinated, so under 12. And again, this is just from August 1st. It's kind of a 2-part thing. So the other part, Heather had done some data compared to last year. I don't know, do you want to do that now or do you want to do it?
I looked through the data last year, I believe sort of in mid August, I think we went 3 weeks without a case. And then in September, it was very low. And then starting in October, we kind of started building up to the peak of January. But unfortunately, this August, I mean, look, week on week, and September, week on week, just starting, we have more cases than we did a year ago.
And then as far as vaccines go, 93% of eligible residents have received their COVID vaccine. So that's great. We have great numbers.
Yeah, I think it was 94% last week.
And then we'll have ongoing conversation about boosters, but they're not approved by the FDA yet for people who are not immunocompromised. We have a potential plan in place for being able to do a few clinics, like 2 a month, when people are eligible for them. But we're kind of have our hands tied until that happens. Just one potential barrier to that is we switched platforms to Color, which is a great program. It's really user friendly, but it requires every vaccinator and every person who's checking someone in to have a computer. So we've been working with Jay to see what our options are. And he has said that his hands are pretty tied as far as getting us things on a weekly basis. Like if we know ahead of time one day, he'll be able to get us like a couple laptops. If it's like a recurring thing, he said he probably wouldn't be able to. So that's just the only barrier that we see right now. Other than
Right, I'm working with Carla, you know, in terms of sort of financial outlay for these clinics with potential, you know, how reimbursement works with CARES and FEMA. I think her final ask was with the schools, if we could borrow some.
So I think she reached out to the schools, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I would say manpower is one of them, but one good thing is that we're contracting with Salmon, so I don't think we're going to have a huge problem finding people to help.
Yeah, for vaccinators, right. And
Right.
we had admins hired through the town already for the Westboro Metro West Collaborative clinics. 2 are still on the payrolls, and we could probably get a couple more. And that Carla feels fairly confident about the reimbursement because we would need admin support with getting all those people electronically checked in. And our planning is to focus on vulnerable populations for a smaller scale that could be hosted at the senior center has been willing to fit in with their programming. There's possible, we don't know, the kind of the 4 towns or perhaps the 7 towns who work together for the vaccine clinic. Towns have all decided to do it sort of town by town in general, not have something like the Westboro Doubletree site again, not have, we've heard not having mass vac sites again, but perhaps with the 7 towns, maybe doing sort of a monthly in like a weekend, potentially like a Saturday or maybe a school, you know, that could be in one town 1 month and another town another month would kind of be as far as we would go in terms of a big
collaborative.
Yeah.
Any idea on when they'll be vaccinating kids or still nothing?
I'm hearing December.
Yeah, December is what we're hearing now. Yeah. Keeps getting pushed back.
Gotcha.
Great. Thank you for the update. Anything else on that topic? Mask requirement in town buildings. So the Board of Selectmen voted at the August meeting, the date's escaping me right now, to put a mask mandate in town buildings, meaning anybody coming into the building, the public having a mask on, employees if they're interacting with others, but if they're sitting at their desk alone with no one around them, then they do not have to wear a mask. So I know that Dr. Alker had conversations with the town administrator and the chair on, you know, the direction going forward. So I just wanted to give this board an opportunity. The selectmen did vote to have this in place through 9:30 and revisit it at our 9:21 meeting. And doing so eliminated in-person meetings because with the mask and the Zoom, and it's just like pretty clunky still. We decided to, you know, recommend that people go back to Zoom, at least the boards and committees that are appointed by selectmen, and then obviously elected boards can use their discretion. So I wanted to bring it here, given that the selectmen are meeting in another 12 days on what to do after September 30th, if we wanted to make a recommendation.
I think we should probably continue the masks. I know Sudbury actually has it in all like restaurants and stuff. They're back to wearing masks.
But that
So,
might be an advisory, which is a little different. No, it's
oh, we
not.
were
Andy.
told I
No,
went,
Okay.
it's a requirement.
it
because
is. I went to
it's on-
Bullfinch's with
Oh,
my
good.
husband and we had no clue and they were handing out masks. I think it just went
Oh.
into effect like Tuesday or something, she said.
They went in
So-
effect, the mask mandate went in effect September 1st in Sudbury.
Okay. So, I mean, I think we'd look pretty remiss if we didn't have it, at least in our public buildings. I don't know, anybody else have any?
I mean, I voted for it at
Yeah.
the Board of Selectmen meeting. It was a split vote. It was 3-2. I mean, I feel like it's, for the protection of the employees,
Sure.
the public coming in, the schools are masking. So I was supportive of it. I don't want to create an issue in a town building. So that was kind of my rationale for it. And, I think, having Dr. Alker's input was helpful as well. So that's,
Right.
I
I mean,
would be-
unfortunately, we're up against this Delta variant, which has changed our springtime
Right.
rules. And so we now have transmission from fully vaccinated to fully vaccinated and
Right.
some other things. So I think that has changed things.
Yeah.
And as we said before, we're higher this fall than last fall. So with case numbers.
Exactly,
So
yeah.
it wouldn't really make sense to be masked last year and not this year if we have more cases.
I agree.
Yeah. So after.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with that, complete agreement.
okay. So do we want to take a position on this so that the selectmen are aware that the Board of Health took a position?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to abstain, seeing as I also sit on the Board of Selectmen. But I will make the motion that the Board of Health recommends to continue the mask mandate into October, through the end of October.
So I
Or
can't really
pass-
second it, right? I have to just,
No, you-
because I thought you were abstaining. So how does
I
that?
am,
how-
when I vote, I'm gonna abstain.
Oh, okay,
I'll
but
just
you
make the
can make the
motion.
motion. All
I'll
right,
make the
you know
motion.
all the little minutiaes. I'm still, after 16 years, figuring it out, apparently.
Do we want to do it past, do you want me to just say past September 30th, or do you want me to, you want me
I
to
would
just
say
do
until
that?
further notice at this
Okay.
I
point,
would
because
like
we're,
that
Okay.
further notice.
Until further notice.
yeah, because we're heading into, the indoor seasons and I don't think the masks are going anywhere, quite honestly.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second,
A second and vote aye.
and I vote aye as well.
Okay, I abstain. Okay. Thank you. Capital plan update and space needs study. Dr. Alker, I'll give this to you. And also Nancy, I think, worked on this.
I know, well, a
Yeah.
little, very little.
Right. I mean, we
Sorry.
didn't really have big thoughts on our capital.
We walked
planning.
around and
We walked around. I mean, right. I don't think we needed furniture, but we did discuss with the architect who came for the space needs assessment that our square footage is good, but our floor plan has kind of two issues. One is the biggest issue is that the bathroom is a walkthrough through Taylor's office. So having a different hallway or access to the bathroom would be amazing. And that kind of leads to the other point that there is no private office space in the Board of Health. So, because the Taylor's is a walkthrough to the bathroom. So those are kind of the two big issues. So yeah, the architect didn't kind of have any quick fixes, he did think sort of this open floor plan, Dennis and I have desks here that you could potentially close one of them in. At least that would be a private office. And then I don't think he quite knew what to do about the bathroom, but I mean, right. So those were kind of, so those might be bigger items because than just getting filing cabinets.
Great.
Thoughts?
It is,
Yeah.
it's a weird setup. It's like these old houses that have a bathroom right off the kitchen. Like who wants to use a bathroom that's right off of someone's office or vice versa? Just to be, but perhaps that wasn't supposed to be an office. I think it was supposed to just house our refrigerator and all that. But they've used it now as an office and it's just a terrible setup.
Yeah, there, and when you're back there, there's the bathroom there, but then there's also that other room that is sort of overflow old parts of computer storage area that has, I think the telephone server system could maybe be made into a private office, but again, it doesn't have its own door. It would again be a walkthrough
Right.
to the nursing office to get there. So again, and then we're stuck with that bathroom issue, which is just a problem.
Yeah.
And
Because
this
I
was-
think the physical, like where the bathroom is, like once you get past the nursing office, it's almost in the building department area, I would think, right? I mean, if you to put another access to it. would
Right.
almost be Building department.
I mean, it's
So-
great that Taylor and everybody is in the same area because I know Leslie she had a very private office. She could have very personal,
Right,
HIPAA
right.
compliant
Exactly. Phone calls,
meetings
it's
and
tough, it's
conversations
tough.
and
Yeah,
Taylor and you and, it's just not,
conversation.
there
Yeah,
needs to be more privacy
there
or
is not
even,
privacy, correct.
so,
Okay.
Chelsea had mentioned about, I spoke with building department, they're hiring, in terms of us kind of going into that, using that office, they're hiring someone. So.
Right, it's a
but
part, it's a 19 and a half.
Right,
right?
20 hours,
Yeah.
they said, don't know the schedule yet.
Okay. All right, so hopefully we can figure that out and then,
Maybe get some time over there.
okay, Right.
I sometimes Zoom remotely because if Dennis is in,
Yeah.
it's just, it
Yeah.
doesn't really, like I'll be Zooming and,
okay.
okay.
All right, and I think more to come on that, that was a
Yeah.
town-wide assessment that was done for all space needs. So we'll see where that goes. Okay, thank you. So the Dr. Faison report and set a date for presentation. So Dr. Medina, I don't know if you've received Dr. Faison's report yet.
I have not.
Okay, so maybe Barbara, if there's an extra copy that we could connect with Dr. Medina so that he has a chance to review it. And I think we were originally thinking that we wanted to have kind of a live forum at maybe the senior center, but I'm thinking that maybe that's not the best idea this time, that maybe we should do it on Zoom. And right. So I would like to try to schedule him in the next couple of weeks, because I think this is actually good timing as we're starting to prepare for, fall town meeting and what we want to present. I do think it would be important for us to get this out into the public too, and have him kind of give his feedback after meeting with all these stakeholders. So if this board is okay, I'd like to reach out to him to get some potential times and then loop back with you all and see what would work. In
like a
conjunction.
doodle pool. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And I'm guessing an evening might be better for the public to be able to join. Is that okay for both of you?
Yeah, then I don't have to worry about taking a day off because I work till 7:30, so that'd be good.
Okay. Okay, so we'll do well, I'll shoot for an evening then. Are any particular days better for either one of you or Dr. Alker?
Yeah, I
Taylor?
think the only thing to check is there's some school committee meetings, so I may have
Okay.
to be at one of them.
Okay.
I think there's one tomorrow, which should be fine, but there is one next week, so.
Okay.
We check those dates.
All right. I do try to know when those are too, so. Okay, so I'll reach out to him and get, 2 or 3 dates and then just check with all of you to make
Perfect,
sure
yeah.
that works. And, maybe end of September, beginning of October. And going forward, when is a good time for this board to meet? Do you prefer during the day, evenings? What would you rather?
I'm easy. If I know ahead of time, I can request the day off. So, and evenings, it's tough for even on a work day because I never know when I'm going to get home.
Okay,
So it really doesn't matter to me. I'd probably request the day, try to work a different day if I know ahead of time.
Okay.
Is what I've done in the past, because even if we did an evening one, I'm not confident I'd get home in time.
okay,
And for me, what would work the best is either Monday mornings or on Tuesdays. Those are my, I have some blocked out admin time.
okay,
So those would be my 2 preferred times, Monday
Okay.
morning or Tuesday up until mid-afternoon.
perfect. Tuesdays are good for me because I don't have any kids on Tuesdays during the day.
All right. So Tuesdays.
So does that work for you, Nancy?
Yeah, it can. I
Okay.
mean, it can. That's probably easier than Mondays and Fridays because everybody,
Okay. So
wants
let's
those
shoot.
off.
So let's shoot for Tuesdays. Do you want to just schedule October 5th?
Or
Now,
let me just go look at my calendar.
and Dr. Alker, Taylor, Barbara, does that work for you?
Hang on.
Okay.
What is this? Yeah, I can request, that should be fine.
Okay. So do you want to do like 10?
Sure.
Okay,
Works for me.
great. All right, then we don't need to do a doodle poll for that, but I will do it for Dr. Faison. Okay. Does anybody have anything else?
I don't think
No.
so.
I was going to mention the 150 Framingham property.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I
Oh,
skip-
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
totally skipped over that. I'm sorry.
He was going to field any questions. I don't know if Barbara can move her in, but I thought it would be nice to meet the board because
Sure.
we appointed her through the shared service grant to do food and housing inspections. And so last week we had a housing complaint and we inspected it, and we had a re-inspection this week with some progress in a positive direction.
Good.
I think I
It's
lost.
ongoing. And then we had the food establishment at the site was had a new owner presented themselves. So we did a food inspection for kind of re-permitting, pre-opening food inspection, which had numerous violations and the not up to code. So that was there was emergency closing for the restaurant, and a report is out now that is going to the owner of the building and the restaurant establishment. And those violations, I think, will take a while to bring up to code before the reopening. So that's where we are. And I didn't know if Diane wanted to either say hi or if there were questions for her. But she may not be available to come on camera. But
Diane, if you're
Good
there, if you want to
morning.
okay, perfect.
she's here.
Hi.
Oh, we're at noon, Diane.
I know. I'm sorry. So I have a
afternoon.
little. I have a little guy home from daycare today, so I apologize.
No apology necessary.
Yeah, Chelsea's got 3 at home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to point out that when we did the pre-opening inspection, this was a scheduled inspection. This was not a surprise inspection. And so that's what's so alarming about the inspection report. They had 14 what were formerly known as critical violations. They're now priority foundation violations, which means they're an imminent health risk. There were over 60 violations in total. The the building is not compliant. So I have some real concerns moving forward, even if they were to get the building compliant. If this was the condition it was in, knowing that we were coming,
Ugh.
are they really, safe to operate a food establishment without some protections in place?
Yeah, those are some good questions. I can't believe they had that many violations knowing, you were coming. That's just astounding, kind of.
And is this on the landlord or the operator of the establishment?
Okay, so this is a really unique situation because we were doing the housing inspection, and because of the smell of gas, and we saw oil at the rear hood vent during the housing inspection, that's what brought us into the restaurant, which is located below.
Right.
And just so everyone knows, by today's code, this would never be allowed. Just the ceiling height alone makes it ineligible. You can certainly give variances for things like ceiling height, but you can't give a variance for anything that's going to affect public safety. So it's a very unique situation. The landlord ultimately is responsible for everything related to the building. However, they can fight, legalities based on what's in the lease, what the tenant would be required to repair and whatnot. So it's an interesting one.
Sounds kind of complicated, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it is. I think the biggest issue that we all had at first was the safety of the tenants, and because there was no fire protection in place, and it was just a fire hazard. So the fire department has been unbelievable, and they've worked with the building owner, and it's now not fully compliant, but it's safe for the 4 residents that remain. So that's the big step in the right direction. One concern we have is that there were 5 bedrooms there. We were told that one was not being occupied, but upon entry on Tuesday, when Dr. Eckler and I were out there, the room was fully set up, furnished, and there was personal belongings. That
Interesting.
room is right. And the landlord assured us that no one was staying there. We do, as a board, have the right to do investigations as we feel necessary. And so does the fire department, because it is a life safety issue. That room cannot be occupied at any point. It needs to remain open as a secondary egress, or nobody can stay on that second floor. So the fire department will be making random stops. I also intend to do the same. One thing I don't know if you've utilized in the past, we do have the ability to fine, and the fines are substantial.
Mhm.
We have the ability to fine $10 to $500 per violation per day. So
Wow.
if I would suggest, I always recommend working with property owners, but in a situation where it could be a life safety issue, if we find that someone is occupying that space, I would recommend highly that we start fining significant dollar amounts.
Yeah, I do feel like, I feel like money, when it comes to their
Unfortunately,
pocketbooks, things tend to get done when you start fining people. So I would not object to that.
Mhm.
And the report will be emailed. That just came in just right before the meeting.
yeah, I
On the,
didn't get it out till this
just-
morning, so.
Yeah, that'll come to you guys on the board.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for the update. Diane, and thank you for all your work on this, and welcome to Southborough.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
We're happy to have you.
Dr. Eckler and Heather or Taylor have been amazing.
Awesome.
And Barbara, everyone's been amazing to work with.
We're
Great.
lucky.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Does anybody else have anything else?
Looks like Tim's hand is raised.
Okay, can we bring Tim in, please?
Mhm.
Hi again. Three things came to mind as you were talking. The first one is this business of the regulation on masks in municipal buildings. It seems to me that this really should be coming from the Board of Health and not from the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen certainly have their heart in the right place on this one, but they don't control all the municipal buildings. I was at a Board of Library Trustees meeting where they made that point and were trying to figure out if they wanted to do something a bit different. The Council on Aging owns, that building and so on. So I really think you ought to consider whether, you ought to be the ones who are driving this as opposed to reacting to what the Board of Selectmen is doing. The second thing is in terms of a warrant article, the other longtime open issue for you folks has been admin hours. And you may want to think about, what your plan is for that. I know you didn't get the hours that you thought you were going to get from the cooperative relationship with the assessors. So whether you want to do it in the fall or whether you want to set it up for the spring, I don't think you should leave that off the agenda. And then the third thing, as I mentioned at your last meeting, in terms of capital that's a long-term plan. That's not a this week or this year sort of thing. And the big thing that comes to my mind is you're going to want to go to electronic records to get all your files and plans and all that stuff. And that is going to have capital requirements.
I was told that electronic digitalization of the records was going to come on a town level via the American Rescue Plan money.
I guess I'm not as concerned about where the money comes from as that there's a plan to do something. And then, if one way falls through, it ought to be in the plan to do it some other way. And so, my concern, is, in terms of electronic record storage, backup, very large format printers for all the plot plans and stuff. It seems to me that there's, some chunk of money, whether it's, 20,000, 50,000, 100,000, there's something coming that's not going to be $5,000 to make that happen. So those are my three observations for this morning. Thanks for the time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Okay, and with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
A second. Or I make
Aye.
a motion to adjourn.
I second and I.
Okay. Nancy?
Aye.
Okay, Dr. Medina?
Aye. Yep.
All right, and Chelsea is aye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch. Have a good
Okay,
day.
bye-bye.
Bye.
Nancy,
Yes,
do you want to call me?
sure.
Okay, so we could plan a time to come pick up that paperwork.
Yeah, are you on, so tomorrow I have to bring my mother-in-law